Ida Bhikkhave Bhikkhu Kaye Kayanupasi Viharati Atapi Sampajano Satima Vineya Loke Beja Domanasam. According to the teaching, you dwell contemplating the body in the body, and you practice the foundations of mindfulness on the body, being ardent, making true effort, being mindful and being thoroughly aware of the object, and having concentration and clear comprehension. So during that practice, you have many components. Ardent is one component. Atapi, Sampajano, clearly comprehending, is another component. Concentration is yet another, and mindfulness. And also you have faith, Saddha. Because of this faith, you practice diligently. Here comes the value of mindfulness. Mindfulness is a regulating mental factors. So mindfulness helps to keep your effort from becoming too much. It helps concentration from becoming too much, and so on. So the mindfulness factor is a regulating factors among these 5 components in your practice of meditation. So mindfulness is a very important factors in these 5 factors, but every factors is important, and each one of them must be working in harmony and in balance with the other factors. Atapi Sampajano Satima Vineya Loke Beja Domanasam. When the 5 mental factors are working in balance, you are clearly comprehending. Then what is the result? The result is Vineya Loke Beja Domanasam. You overcome covetousness and grief, desire and discontent in the world. That is the result you get from clearly comprehending in your practice of mindfulness meditation. Now here, most English translation miss the point. They translate Vinaya Loke Beja Dominasan as having removed or having overcome or having abandoned covetousness and grief in the world. What is your practice for? What is this mindfulness practice for? It is for removing covetousness and grief It is for overcoming covetousness and grief. Abhijja, covetousness means attachment. Domanassa, grief means ill will, anger. So our Vipassana or Satipatthana meditation is for overcoming Abhijja, Domanassa, covetousness and grief. If you have already overcome covetousness and grief, you do not need to practice, you do not come to the center. For this very purpose, we are practicing mindfulness. But if we have already achieved this purpose, we do not need to come to the center, we do not practice mindfulness. So here, Vinaya Loke Beja Domanasam, we should translate it as removing covetousness and grief in the world. That means you overcome, you remove at the same time covetousness and grief in the world, and not having removed or not having overcome. That means meditators overcome covetousness and grief, abhijja and domanassa, as you practice mindfulness. So we want you to be aware of this point. Vinaya loke beja domanasan, removing covetousness and grief in the world, removing desire and discontent in the world means avoiding craving or attachment or anger or ill will concerning the object you are observing. Loke in the world means in the world of body, in the world of feeling, in the world of consciousness, and so on, concerning that object. You see one object and you can be attached to that object. If you come to conclusion that it is beautiful or it is good, you will be attached to it. And if you have anger or if you have hatred, etc., towards that object, if you decided it was ugly, it was disgusting, you can have anger or hatred. So these mental defilements can come into our minds when we experience something. In order to prevent them from arising, we need to make some protection, and that protection is mindfulness. When we are mindful, mental defilements will not get a chance to get into our minds. When we are mindful, when we comprehend clearly, and when we see the psychophysical phenomena clearly, we know that these objects come and go. The objects are impermanent, and so not to be attached to them, so we can avoid abhijja, covetousness, or attachment. We can avoid domanassa, we can avoid grief or hatred regarding that object by the practice of mindfulness. Whether we say overcoming or removing or whatever, actually we are avoiding them, we are preventing them from arising. Not that they have come, and then we overcome them or we remove them after they have come. The meaning really is preventing abhijja and domanassa, preventing covetousness and grief from arising in our minds. If we do not practice mindfulness on the object, mental defilements will surely come, either abhijja, domanassa, covetousness or grief, or attachment or hatred. These mental states can come, but by the practice of mindfulness, we can prevent them, we can prevent mental defilements from coming. Preventing them from arising in our minds is what is meant by overcoming them. But if mental defilements have arisen, of course, we should make them the object of our attention to eliminate them. When we talk about enlightenment, we say at the moment of enlightenment, mental defilements are eradicated. What mental defilements are eradicated at that moment? The present mental defilements, or past mental defilements, or the future mental defilements. The past mental defilements are already past. We do not have to do anything to get rid of them. And the future mental defilements are not here yet. So you cannot do anything about them. And what of the present mental defilements? If they are present, there can be no enlightenment, because enlightenment is a wholesome state, and those mental defilements are unwholesome states. Wholesome states and unwholesome states cannot exist together. They do not coexist. So the mental defilements that are said to be eradicated at the moment of enlightenment are not of the past, not of the future, and not of the present. Not of the past, not of the future, and not of the present. Then, what mental defilements are eradicated? Actually, strictly speaking, those defilements that are eradicated are not called defilements or kilesa. They are called latency or anusia. Anusia means potential to arise. What the enlightenment consciousness eradicates is that potential. That means when something is always with us, we have to say we have that things. Take for example, smoking. Suppose you smoke, but right now you do not smoke. You do not smoke. If I ask you, do you smoke? And you would say, yes, I do. Because you smoked in the past and you will smoke in the future and you will not given up smoking. So although you are not smoking at this very moment, you say, yes, I smoke. In the same way, now, right at this moment, I have no mental defilements, I have no kilesa in my mind, and you have no mental defilements in your mind, you have no kilesa in your mind, but after a few moments, you go out and you step on something sharp or someone push you intentionally and you get angry. And thus the mental defilements comes when there are the condition for them. So we say we have mental defilements. I have mental defilements, I have kilesa, you have mental defilements, you have kilesa, but not right at this moment. So that liability to arise is what is eradicated by your enlightenment. The mental defilements that are said to be eradicated at the moment of enlightenment are actually nothing but that ability or liability to come up. When they come up, they are already there. In the same way here, Vinaya Loke Beja Dominasam, overcoming covetousness and grief means avoiding mental defilements or preventing mental defilements from arising in our minds. How prevent them from the mind? By the practice of mindfulness. You make effort, you apply mindfulness, and you have concentration, and you see mind and matter clearly. When you see mind and matter clearly, there is no chance for these mental defilements to come into your mind. In this way, vipassana or mindfulness practice removes mental defilements. There are three kinds of removal of our mental defilements. The first one is momentary removal. This removal or removing is just momentary, just by substitution. Next moment they may come back. It is of a very short duration. The Denga Vinaya, momentary removal, is called abandonment by substitution. That means you abandon the unwholesome mental states by substituting with them with the wholesome mental states. When there is a wholesome mental state, there cannot be any unwholesome mental states. You put wholesome mental state in the place, and so unwholesome mental states do not get a chance to arise. That is called abandonment by substitution. That will last for only a moment. The next moment they will come back. So the moment you are mindful, the moment you see the object clearly, is so precious. You can remove your mental defilements momentarily. One noting is so precious in the practice. So at the moment of vipassana, Abhijja and Domanassa, the covetousness and grief or desire and discontent are removed in that way by substituting them with your mindfulness and clear comprehension. But when you get out of vipassana, when you stop your vipassana, you meet some condition for them to arise, and then defilements will arise. The second removal is temporary removal with Kambana Vinaya. It is another kind of abandonment called temporary abandonment or temporary abandonment or abandonment by pushing away. When you push something away, it may stay there for some time. It may not come back quickly, like plants in the water. If you push them away, they may stay away for some time, but then very slowly they may come back. The kinds of removing or the kinds of abandonment is called temporary abandonment or removing or removal by pushing away. Vikambana Vinaya. That is achieved by jhanas. When you get jhanas, when you experience jhana, you are able to push these mental defilements away for some time. Defilements may not come to your mind for the whole day, or maybe a week or a month, but in this case too, defilements can eventually come back. And the third removal is called total removal. In Pali, it is called samojjeda, cutting off. That is removal by cutting off. It is like you cut the root of a tree and it never grows back. So the total removal or removal once and for all is called removal by cutting off, and that is achieved at the moment of your enlightenment. The mental defilements eradicated at the moment of your enlightenment never comes back to you. If yogi become arahant, he or she has eradicated all mental defilements. He has no attachment, no anger, no pride, no jealousy, and other unwholesome mental states. Even though they may provoke, arahants will not get angry. Arahant will not depress, even though they may see a very attractive and beautiful object. They will not feel any attachment, they will not feel any desire for that object. Those are the person who have eradicated mental defilements by totally cutting them off. So these are the three kinds of removing. And here in the practice of Vipassana, we can understand the two kinds of removing. The first removing, momentary removal, and there can be the second kinds of removing, temporary removal. That is, if you have practiced meditation well and you are able to avoid abhijja domanassa, desire and discontent or covetousness and grief with regard to the objects you observe. You will find that you are able to avoid covetousness and grief even with regard to those objects that you do not observe. Here, do not observe means do not treat with mindfulness. Naturally, the objects we come across can cause desire and discontent in our minds. If we do not practice mindfulness on the object, then we will have attachment or we will have ill will towards that object. That happens to most people. If you are good at vipassana practice and you have this experience of avoiding covetousness and grief with regard to objects that are observed, you will find that you are able to prevent them from arising even with regard to those that are not observed. So what this means is that When the momentum of the mindfulness that keeps the mind pure, free from defilements, from moment to moment picks up, it keeps the mind inclined towards that state of purity, such that even if attractive or repulsive object contact the senses and the meditator fails to observe it with mindfulness, the defilements will not arise. However, this removal of defilements is only temporary. Once your momentum is lost due to lack of repetition of mindfulness, your mind will again incline towards the defilements due to latent tendency, and defilements will surface again. So that is called temporary removal by vipassana. Vipassana can achieve only these two kinds of removal: momentary removal and temporary removal. But vipassana cannot achieve the third one, samucceda, the total removal. Total removal that will be done by your enlightenment, that will be done by path consciousness, mega cheta. When Buddha said, Vinaya loke bija dominasam, overcoming covetousness and grief in the world, he meant that meditator is able to avoid covetousness and grief from arising with regard to that object which he or she is observing. Here again, abhijja, covetousness means all kinds of attachment, greed, lust, and other similar mental states. And domanassa, grief means not just grief, but anger, hatred, depression, sorrow, sadness, all are included in domanassa, grief. There are three roots of unwholesomeness, and they are lobha, dosa, moha, attachment, anger, and ignorance. Among these three, lobha, dosa, and moha, two, lobha and dosa, attachment and anger, are mentioned here, mentioned as abhijja domanassa. Abhijja, covetousness or desire, is actually the first one, which is lobha or attachment, and the second one is domanassa, dosa, anger. So by covetousness, abhijja, we means all shades of lobha, desire, and by grief we means all shades of dosa. Moha, ignorance, is not included here because moha, ignorance, is very difficult to prevent and eradicate. So in this sentence, we must understand that a meditator practice body contemplation making effort, applying mindfulness, getting concentration, and clearly comprehending, and at the same time, he is able to avoid covetousness and grief from arising. It is the same with regard to feelings, with regard to consciousness, with regard to Dhamma objects. The commentary says that the statement Vinaya Loke Bija Domanasam, overcoming covetousness and grief, refers to overcoming of all the 5 mental hindrances, because when covetousness and grief, that are the strongest of the 5 hindrances are mentioned, we must understand that the other mental hindrances are also mentioned. And also, you know, the 4 foundations of mindfulness, 4 kinds of setting up of mindfulness. There are 4 because there are 4 kinds of object. Kaya Nupassana, contemplation of the body, is the first one. Kaya Nupassana, sometimes body, Kaya does not mean the whole physical body, but a group of some material properties. Breathing is also called the body. Different parts of the body are also called the body, Kaya. That is the breath body, or the group of material properties related to the breath that arises when there is breathing. For example, pressure, heat, cold, friction, motion, etc. Different parts of the body are also called the body, Kaya. By the word body, we must understand anything that is associated with the body. So every sitting, standing, walking, stretching, bending, rising, falling, etc., you are contemplating the Kaya Nupassana, the body in the body. And second is feeling, Vedana Nupassana. Feeling is a mental state. Now we have pain here, physical pain, and we experience that physical pain with our mind. In our mind, there is a mental state called feeling. Since it is physical pain, the mental feeling is the painful feeling. When Buddha said, a meditator contemplates feeling in the feeling, he means the meditator is contemplating on that mental state and not necessarily on the pain there. In practice, when we have pain, we have to concentrate on the pain and be mindful of it, because that is practical. But actually, when we are making notes as pain, 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 we are really making notes of the mental state. we are really making notes of the mental state that feels the pain in the body. That feeling is of three kinds: pleasant feeling, unpleasant feeling, and neutral feeling. So when contemplating the feeling, you do not identify this feeling with yourself, regard them as feeling apart from you. You patiently note every arising feeling to understand its true nature. And the third one is Jeta, consciousness. It is usually translated as mind, but consciousness is a better translation. The Pali word is Jeta. This means consciousness. In Buddhist psychology, mind is composed of four things. So that we call mind is a group or combination of four things. Sometimes there may be confusion regarding these terms, mind and consciousness. Let us say mind is composed of two things. First, consciousness, Jeta, and mental factor, Cetasika. Consciousness is defined as the awareness of an object. Here, awareness is not like awareness in the practice of our meditation. It is just mere awareness. It is like you are aware of someone there at the site, although you are looking this way in front. That kind of awareness is called Jeta, consciousness. So we understand that although we use the word consciousness for the word Jeta, it is not an exact translation of the word. Consciousness is defined as mental state, which is the awareness of the object. Only when there is awareness of the object can there be contact with the object, feeling of the object, liking of the object, disliking of the objects, and so on. So these mental states, that is contact, feeling, liking, disliking, etc., are subordinate to consciousness, but they are also components of the mind. So mind is first divided into two: consciousness and mental state. Contact, feeling, perception, attention, liking, disliking, and so on are all called mental factors. According to Abhidhamma, there are 52 mental factors, Cetasika, and these 52 are grouped into three: feeling, perception, and mental formation, Vedana, Sanya, and Sankara. So when we add consciousness to these three, we get four kinds of mental state. It is amazing that fully enlightened Buddha could define and differentiate each of these mental states that arise simultaneously, taking the same object. So when we practice meditation, we mentally notice sorry, sorry. That means we have a consciousness accompanied by sorrow or something like that. It could be contemplation on consciousness, citta nupassana. When you say a note, angry, angry, you are doing contemplations of consciousness accompanied by anger. So try to note every arising citta. Gradually, it will become purified. And then the last one is Dhamma. This is one Pali word that is most difficult to translate or that cannot be translated adequately. This word Dhamma means different things in different contexts. You cannot translate the word Dhamma with just one English word. If you do, you will be wrong. So here Dhamma simply means the objects that are Nivarana, 5 mental hindrances, the 5 aggregates, the 12 bases, the 7 factors of enlightenment, and the 4 noble truths. They are called Dhamma in the discourse, in this discourse, so we cannot translate this word. Mostly Dhamma is translated as mind object or mental object, contemplation of the mind objects or contemplation of the mental object. But each of these translations are not satisfactory. So it is better to keep the word Dhamma untranslated to avoid confusion. Dwelling on Dhamma objects, if you concentrate on anger, then you are doing Dhammanupassana, contemplation on the Dhamma. Here Dhamma does not mean teaching or discourse or other things. If you see something and you are mindful of seeing, so you always practicing seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, and knowing, you are doing Dhammanupassana. So the Dhamma objects contemplation is very wide and includes mental hindrances, aggregates, bases, factors of enlightenment, and the 4 noble truths. So if we translate it as mind objects and we take it to mean mind as object, then some objects that fall under this contemplation are not mind. So if we translate it as mental objects, then everything is object of mind. Body is also object of mind. Since we cannot get a satisfactory and adequate translation, it is better to leave Dhamma untranslated. So you practice these 4 foundations of mindfulness choicelessly, and so you are really practicing. Do not try to find out which one you are doing. That is a distraction. As a practitioner of Vipassana, you have to take what is there at the present moment Do not try to find out whether it is body, or it is feeling, or it is consciousness, or it is Dhamma. Whatever there is, your duty is to be mindful of that object, so you do not have covetousness and grief, desire and discontent regarding that object. In order not to have covetousness and grief, you have to be mindful. You have no time to find out whether it is consciousness or Dhamma or other things. When you practice Vipassana meditation, you practice all these four foundations of mindfulness as they come along. So long as you are mindful of the object at the present moment, you are doing fine, your meditation is good. What is not good is when you are carried away by your thoughts, you forget about meditation, you forget about meditation for some seconds or maybe some minutes. That is not good. But so long as you are mindful, you are doing the right thing, your meditation is going well. Sometimes yogi think that if they do not concentrate on the main object or primary objects, they are not doing meditation. Sometimes they say, oh, we have to spend time and we have to waste time noting the mind going here and there, and we do not have much time to concentrate on the main object. Whether you are aware of the main objects or secondary objects, so long as you are mindful at that present moment, you are doing fine, you are meditating, and you are practicing Vipassana. What is important in Vipassana meditation is first, to be mindful of the object at the present moment. Sometimes you may miss to be mindful, and then by becoming aware that you have missed, that missing also becomes the object of your meditation. So you have to say to yourself, you have to note missing, missing, missing before you go back to your home object. There should be mindfulness always, mindfulness here, mindfulness there, and if you can keep mindfulness intense, then you will make rapid progress, and you will begin to see the true nature of psychophysical phenomena. That is, you will begin to see the objects arising and disappearing. When you see the arising and disappearing, you also see they are impermanent. When you see they are impermanent, you also see their suffering nature and also their uncontrollable nature, or that you have no control over these. You see that they arise and disappear at their own free will. So when you see them, you are said to see the three general characteristics, nature, dukkha, and anatta, of all conditioned phenomena. Seeing of these three general characteristics of all conditioned phenomena is the essence of our Vipassana. If you practice Vipassana, you must see these three characteristics because vipassana means seeing in different ways. That means seeing in the light of nature, impermanence, see in the light of suffering, dukkha, and see in the light of uncontrollability or non-soul. What is important in vipassana is to see these three characteristics, and in order to see these three characteristics, we need to observe, we need to watch, and we need to pay attention to the objects at the present moment. In order to pay attention to the objects at the present moment, we need to make effort, atapi. Without effort, nothing valuable can be achieved. That is why Buddha said, atapi sambhajano satima, ardent, clearly comprehending and mindful. When you can fulfill these conditions, being ardent, clearly comprehending and mindful, and have concentration, you will be able to overcome abhijja and domanassa, desire and discontent regarding the objects you observe. So this is a summary of the discourse called Maha-Satipatthana Sutta, the great discourse on the four foundations of mindfulness. If you understand the summary this much, you have a firm understanding of that mindfulness practices, and so you will understand how to practice mindfulness meditation. There are other detailed instructions for the practice of mindfulness, and we will listen this retreat, the foundations of mindfulness and other sutta. And following these instructions, making effort, applying mindfulness and seeing objects clearly, may all yogis be able to overcome abhijja and domanassa. May all yogis be liberated from all suffering. May all yogis realize the real peace in the very near future.